Okay, wonderful. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. My name is Kristen McKnight. I work here at WGU in our Office of Career and Professional Development. And I'm on our employer relations team. And part of what we do here at WGU is we help connect students and alumni with our employers who are interested in recruiting WGU students and alumni. And we do that through events that happen throughout the year. But right now we are in the middle of one of our big event months, which we call Career Quest. So you are at a Career Quest session today, and we're so glad that you're here. We do have some more events happening throughout this week, which is our last full week of our fall Career Quest. Then our next Career Quest will be happening in January. But like I said, we have events that happen throughout the month, every month of the year. So if you are ever thinking, oh, it'd be great for me to be able to connect with an employer, take a look at our upcoming events on Handshake. That's where you'll see all of our upcoming employer events and all of the chances that you'll get to participate in sessions where you get to learn about a company, learn about their opportunities, as well as some professional development sessions as well. We are so excited today to have some of our friends from the Internal Revenue Service here. Holly Reed is one of our kind of recruiting partners here at WGU. Holly, I don't see you in my chat. Are you here?
I got to unmute, but I'm here.
Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and pass it over to Holly and let her kick things off today.
Great, thanks, Kristen. I love doing these sessions. I also have with me today Amy Spencer. Hopefully, you can find her in amongst the pictures. Amy, say hello for us so that it helps.
Good morning. Well, I guess we're in afternoon now, so.
So Amy and I are both hiring managers with the Internal Revenue Service. We're both out of Utah. But what we're saying applies to nationwide. So never fear, you don't have to be in Utah for this to apply. So we're here to talk to you a little bit today, particularly about the revenue agent's job, which is the big one the IRS is hiring right now. We'll talk to you about the pay, the benefits, why we like working here, how you can qualify, how to apply, all of that. So the first thing really is to tell you a little bit about the IRS, right? I'm sure you've heard of us, right? Hopefully you've all paid your taxes. That's probably one of the first requirements for getting a job here is to make sure you're current on your taxes. But the IRS has a really unique situation going on right now, and the Congress has given us quite a bit of extra funding over the last few years. Part of that's because they didn't give us a lot of funding for a lot of years. We actually were on a hiring freeze for about 10 years, not allowed to hire anybody. And our workforce definitely depleted, mostly from retirement. We had, when I was hired, which was 18 years ago, I came fresh out of college, thought I would get the training and go, and I love it so much, I've stayed here. But when I started 18 years ago, they said that within the next 5 years, 2/3 of management will be eligible for retirement. COVID and all of those things, a lot of people didn't retire yet. So today, 2/3 of management is eligible and hasn't retired, but are looking to do so finally. So we have lots of growth opportunity. It's just a really exciting place. We're trying to fill the positions, do what Congress asks us to do, and make sure that we're serving the American people. So a little about what I really like to say is there's lots of benefits for working for the federal government, and these benefits are largely like federal service wide, right? It doesn't matter who you work for, you get I think it's 12 paid holidays now, if I'm not mistaken, because this slide was made before we added Juneteenth, I think. So I want to say it's 12 paid holidays now. We have vacation time and sick time that start out at 4 hours a pay period, which I think equates to about 4 weeks of each a year that you start out accruing, and then that goes up at 3 years and at 15 years. Until at 15 years, I swear, if you're like me, you cannot even use all the leave that you have actually. So that's always exciting. But what I really want to draw your attention to is my favorite parts of the job and why I stayed for as long as I have, why I like it. And the number one benefit for me is work-life balance. I looked at the Big Four. I did some interviews with them, and I was not entirely sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to choose tax or audit. Turns out I could choose both here at the IRS that way. I also didn't know if I really wanted to commit to all the hours they were talking about. And so by far, my favorite part of the job is that I can have a competitive salary, do an important work, really dive into the accounting stuff and also only work 40 hours a week. So Amy, what's your favorite part of the job?
I'm going to back up the work-life balance. I also really like the variety of the work that we do. It is not a cookie cutter job. It is not a checkbox job. This is a lot of thinking and being interactive and deductive and trying to solve puzzles, trying to figure out what taxpayers are doing on their tax return. Is always a mystery. So it's the variety and it's the work-life balance that keep me here for sure.
And I definitely agree with that, right? Like I love going from auditing. So essentially we're auditing tax returns, right? Making sure they are correct. So we go out to taxpayers' offices and one day I might be touring a manufacturing facility and the next day I'm auditing a dentist office. So the variety, like Amy says, is fantastic. Just a little bit about some of the other benefits listed on here. Of course, we have a new childcare subsidy. I'm going to be honest, most of the time that doesn't apply to us because it's actually the lower wage positions. But in the first few years of your career, it might. The paid holidays, the vacation time, the sick leave. We'll tell you a little bit more about training in a bit, but after training, you basically can set your own hours and work how you want to. I'm going to put it out there that during training, you have to work certain hours because we have to train you, right? We also have transportation subsidies. Pretty much we'll pay for a bus fare, whatever, wherever you live, right? Whatever that is. Health and life insurance. Obviously, I mean, I feel like they're kind of standard, except for the government pays a pretty good share of the health insurance. So would say it's pretty inexpensive for really good coverage. For example, I have some big health stuff. My kids have some big health stuff, and we really don't have to pay too much. It doesn't break the bank. And yes, I think I saw the question. Sick leave is separate than vacation time. We track them both separately. You can accrue, like I say, it's about 4 weeks a year that you earn of each. And then sick leave, there's no limit to how much you can carry over. So one of my bosses has like 3,000 hours of sick leave because he's been working here for 50 years. So it can grow to very large amounts. Annual leave is limited to 240 hours that you can carry over from year to year. So that's 6 weeks, right? So that's kind of nice. And yeah, still quite a bit. So we do still have one of the only pensions around is in federal government, right? So there is that pension. Again, not unique to the IRS, that's all of federal wide. So a lot of these benefits, you can go to opm.gov and it will go into more detail about them if you're interested. The portable retirement savings account is essentially a 401k. So like any other job, we do have matching. I think, Amy, you said you were looking into it. I think it's
3%. It's matching for the first 3%, 100%, and then 50% for the next 2%. So for your 5%, they contribute 4.
right. So again, I feel like that's pretty standard for most retirement accounts, but we have that plus the pension, which is kind of nice. We also have something that a lot of people care about, which is I don't know what it's called specifically, but I think of it as like Cobra for retirement, if that makes any sense. What that means is if you retire from federal service, but you're not old enough for Medicare, you can keep your health insurance with the federal government during that time until you qualify for Medicare, which is kind of cool, actually. And then, of course, we do have incentive awards programs. So various different kinds of bonuses. There's like manager bonuses that are generally a little smaller, but they're just your manager nominating you for something good. And then we have service-wide, we call them performance awards, where we give the top 55% of all employees top 55% of employees get a bonus, and it's a very complicated thing. I'm not going to try and describe it, but just know that there's a bonus for the top 55% of employees. And I'm going to look at the chat in a minute, but I also have to warn you guys, I know I met some of you last Wednesday, and I have some emails, and I have promised myself that I'm going to get to them today. So I absolutely love it, and I am forwarding things on, and I will get to the questions that I had there if I don't already cover them today as well. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, so Amy and I are both from Small Business Self-Employed Division. It's the biggest division in the IRS. So again, we're hiring for revenue agents primarily. I can talk, if you go to usajobs.gov, that's all the federal hiring. And you're going to see a lot more jobs for IRS in there. And of course, if you are in IT, we have IT jobs, right? There's a lot of things. By far the ones that we know the most about are this revenue agent position. And this is also the one I can kind of jumpstart some hiring stuff with. I can do a little less for the other positions, but we try. So small business self-employed generally covers taxpayers with 10 million in assets or less. It's the majority of taxpayers, far and away. We've actually expanded that a little bit. It's more like 40 million in assets or less these days. We also have a large case division, large business and international. They cover everything above that. And then we also have another division that's tax exempt and government entities. All three divisions, and of course they deal with auditing nonprofits and government entities, right? We're hiring revenue agents in all three of these positions. So as we're talking about it, you're like, this job sounds great, but maybe I'm actually, already specializing in nonprofits and I'd like to go there. That's great. My email address is later in this presentation, and I'll tell you a little bit about applying, but just let me know that if you email me. Okay. So I'm going to kind of skip through that part. So I will, in fact, I'll put it right here in a second. I'll put the job posting for the job I'm actually talking about today. I'll put the announcement in there. And I'll tell you a little bit more about how I can help you apply to that. But just so you know, the official title is Internal Revenue Agent. And I want you to know that because the posting changes, right? So even though I'm going to link you to the post, if you aren't quite graduated and you wait 5 months to look at it, it might be a new posting since then, but that's okay. Just look for this. We don't intend to stop hiring anytime soon. I mean, Congress and the elections and all that, who knows? But the plan right now is not to stop hiring at anytime soon. So we definitely want to hear from you whenever you're ready. So that's why I just really want you guys to keep this in mind. The Internal Revenue Agent is the job we're talking about. So with that, Amy, tell us a little bit about a day in the life of a revenue agent and what we do.
All right. So we are responsible for auditing a variety of types of returns. So we are primarily focused on 1040s with Schedule Cs and Fs and Es. And we're also looking at business returns in the form of 1120 C Corps, 1120 S Corps, and partnership returns. So we kind of do a variety of everything. It's interesting to describe a day in the life because it is every day is different. I have a coworker who describes our job as the closest to being self-employed and still receiving a 10 W-2. We control our workflow. So we're responsible to move an audit from the beginning, where we do an interview and we collect documents, through the middle, where we're reviewing documents and making decisions on taxes, and then closing the audit, meeting with the taxpayer, educating them on where the issues are, and closing the case. So we meet with a ton of different people. We work extensively with CPAs and tax attorneys. And then, as Holly said, we are working with a variety of industries. So, I've done everything from a YouTuber making millions of dollars off of YouTube to somebody selling supplements and making a couple $100s a month. It's just the gamut of businesses. So coming into the IRS with some business experience is valuable, but it's not necessary. Um, we are also responsible for determining if somebody is eligible for a penalty. So if you end up owing the IRS money, we have to substantiate whether this was due to negligence or fraud. Depending on the circumstances, it will determine how much of a penalty you are paying. And again, a huge part of our job is being able to communicate with our taxpayers. So if you're not comfortable talking with people and helping to educate them on the tax code and explaining your adjustments, that would be something to consider, because this is very taxpayer facing. You are interacting with taxpayers on an almost daily basis. So that would be something important for you to know. Anything that I'm missing, Holly?
And just keep going with training now.
Okay, we have an amazing training program. It really is. We are kind of the only game in town. We're the only people that audit taxes in the United States at the federal level. Obviously, the states have their own, but we have a unique training program tailored to get you guys up to speed. Our initial training program is you come in and we're going to do 4 phases of training with you spread out over a year's time period. Our first training phase is done virtually. It takes about 2 weeks and it typically covers 1040's Schedule A deductions. Then we have you come back into the office and we give you about 2 weeks to do some additional admin stuff. And then we physically send you to somewhere in the United States to do a 3-week training course, your first 3-week training course. This course will cover all of the rest of the 1040. It'll cover schedules C, E's, and F's. And again, you could go anywhere in the United States. So we've had people go to Raleigh. I personally went to St. Louis. We've had people in New York, Pittsburgh, just all over the United States. It's a great opportunity to network and meet agents across the United States. Once you come back, we're going to have a nesting period and we're going to team you up with a senior agent. They're going to work with you for about 15 weeks and you're going to work live cases. And so you're kind of learning on the job. Once you get your arms around, kind of wrapped around the 1040, we're going to take you out. We're going to send you out for another 3-week course on corporations. And we're going to bring you back and we're going to fire hose you with more cases and let you, kind of get your arms wrapped around those cases. Once you've got the corporations kind of up and going and you feel like you understand your job again, then we send you off again for your final phase of training, and that is flow through. So that would be your S Corps and your partnerships. And after each of those phases of training, again, you're going to be partnered up with what we call our on-the-job instructors. These agents are pulled off of their own casework and they work on a 4-to-1 ratio. So we really do invest a lot in our training program to get people up and going on this job. Any questions anybody might have about the training program? You do not get to choose your training location, and we typically don't find out where they're going to send you, firmly until a few weeks before. So I wish I'd have been in Hawaii, but they don't offer them in Hawaii because why would they give us the good locations?
I agree. They stopped sending us to the good locations because it gave us bad press and people said we were wasting money. So now we go, not that St. Louis isn't great, but we go to St. Louis quite a bit. It's also centrally located, right, to send everybody there.
So there's a couple other questions in the chat. So
oh,
somebody's
sorry.
asking if they should wait to apply until you've completed your master's program. You're not required to have a master's to hire on as a revenue agent. It would impact your starting pay, but the way our pay structure goes, you would work your way up the ladder. So ultimately, whether you have your master's degree or you have your bachelor's degree, you're going to end up at a journeyman level, which is a GS-12. Somebody else also asked, we'll go over the pay structure a little bit more in a minute. Somebody else asked, how long are you on probation? You are on probation for the first 12 months on the job. So within the first 12 months, we should have a good understanding of whether or not you can perform in the job. And we would fully anticipate that if you have a degree in accounting, you can pretty much do this job if you have the will. So, any other questions before we move on to the next thing? So traveling in training is coming in 3-week increments. So you will go on 3 trainings for 2 to 3 weeks each. And that will be in the first, usually we have them done within the first year and a half. We'll get you through the first 3 classes, and then sometimes there's a delay before you go into your final flow through training. All of it, all the law is learned during training. You are covering everything from basis to deductions to limitations. We see it all. That is one of the things about being a tax auditor is we have a depth of knowledge that's about 1/4 inch deep and 10,000 miles wide. We want to be able to recognize these issues, but we fully expect that you are having an open book job, meaning you are going to be doing research, you are going to be reading these. This is not something that you need to know off the top of your head.
And Amy, some of these next questions are actually on the next couple slides, so we're gonna answer them as we go.
We'll move forward.
Nope,
I'm gonna hand it back to Holly.
they're great questions, and I want to answer them. I think they're wonderful. So, which is exactly what we're going to talk about. So, who are we looking for? This slide just kind of talks about good interpersonal skills, right? And kind of self-motivated. Where it's really not your stereotypical accounting job. There's a lot more people interaction than I think most people are aware of. Definitely, you would assume that there's maybe some conflict in that interpersonal relationships. I would say most of the time it's not, right? You're always going to have the taxpayers that are not like happy to see you, but most of them don't get mad. Most of them are civil. In 18 years, I've had like a handful that were really pretty bad, right? For the most part, it's a professional environment, but you do have to be able to communicate well, right? You're interviewing people, you're getting information, and you have to be able to make decisions. And I think one of the most frustrating things that I've seen recently for some of the new people we've hired is that it's hard for us to give you exactly what you should do because every case is a little different. So we're going to give you guidelines and a structure to follow and that sort of thing, but there's really a lot of room for you to kind of decide how a case moves forward. So who qualifies? Uh-oh. Okay. Is it still working for you guys? I'm getting this weird security thing.
Nope, we got it.
Okay, then I'll just ignore the security thing. So you do not need a degree in accounting, actually. It's probably the easiest way to qualify, but you do not need one. So there's three options, basically. You can have a bachelor's degree in anything. It doesn't have to, it can be in fine arts, it can be general studies, it can be anything, but you need 30 hours of accounting credits. Translating that for WGU, we count 3 classes per class, right? So essentially 10 classes in accounting will get you qualified for this job. If your degree happens to be in business, so maybe you're an economics major or business management, I see, then you just need 24 accounting hours or 8 classes, right? 8 classes there. Those things will qualify you for the position. The last is that if you have a CPA or have been a revenue agent, obviously probably that's not going to apply, but if you already have your CPA, that can also qualify you. I don't know of a state where you wouldn't have one of the other two, but you do have a CPA. So I mean, with that, CPA is not required, master's is not required. We're going to talk about the pay scale in just a minute, but we do not need those things. Some people feel they never need those things. I personally wanted them, so I've got them, or at least working on the CPA still, but have the master's. I don't even remember Amy's credentials, but the third manager we have here in Utah has not been interested, and she's probably kicking all of our butts, right, in terms of her success here. So it's not required unless you want it, right? We do have all these trainings that we have. We also have continuing professional education that we have to do every year because the tax law changes and things like that. Nearly all of the trainings that we do around here do qualify for CPA credit. So it's usually easy to keep your CPA if you have one. And we do have programs that may incentivize you to get these things. We do pay for study materials. We occasionally offer tuition reimbursement. One thing I'll tell you about right now, I guess, is we do have a very robust student loan forgiveness program right now, which is $10,000 per year up to $60,000. So I have some folks that maybe for what they had a scholarship, did something, parents paid for their bachelor's, so they've got that, they've onboarded, and now they're like, I want a master's. So they're getting the master's, they're taking out the student loan for it, mostly so that we can repay it, right? So they charge it and we repay it almost at the same time. And that's kind of nice, right? So that's kind of the basics of how to qualify. And we're going to go into right here, federal pay scales, okay? So the thing that I also want to tell you guys is, like I say, I put that job posting in there, and then I'm going to put my email address real quick, because we have something called direct hiring authority right now, which is kind of unusual for the federal government. We've never had this until the last 2 years or so. In my career, you used to always have to apply it. And the thing is this, if you guys go apply to that job announcement, you'll work your way through the system, right? The problem is that when you apply, it'll probably take me as a hiring manager 3 months to get your application. So it really slows things down. If you are interested, if you have questions, if you want to send me your resume, I am happy to kind of speed this process up a little bit. And I can do that by taking a copy of your resume, your transcripts, and then telling me what location you would prefer to work in, and send me those things to my email account here, and I can send it to the hiring manager for that location. So the best thing about that job announcement is actually it tells you the like 250 locations we're hiring in right now. We actually have more than 250, but there's really 250 that we're hiring in at the moment. Once you're trained, you can move a little bit more to the smaller places. So on that list, oh, no, so this one, sorry, this goes into the pay scale. So anyway, find the resume, transcripts, what location you want to, send it to me, and I can get it to the hiring manager. If you happen to be in Utah or San Jose, I know the weird combination, I'm actually the person you want to talk to anyway. Me and Amy are. So, but we'll get you to the equivalent of us if you are interested in another location. So that's great news. So pay a little bit. I'm going to show you guys an example of a pay scale here, and we're going to talk about it. But first, I want to tell you where to go get it because it's a little different based on your locality. So if you go to OPM pay scales, and I'll make sure that Kristen gets this link that she can send to you because I forgot to pull it up right now. OPM pay scales will pull you up the pay scales for the year, and it looks just like this slide on here. And it lists a whole bunch of locations. If you can't find your location, that means you're in the bottom rest of United States down here. Utah does not have its own locality. Look, Kristen's already on top of it. She's already got the pay scales for you. Different Denver, San Jose, a bunch of places have locality pays that are different anyway. If you can't find yours, you're in rest of United States. So if you anyway, look for the right pay scale is the first step. Then once you open the pay scale, it looks like this. So there are grades and there are steps. The internal revenue agent position is 5, 7, 9, 11, 12 ladder. So I've highlighted those on this slide. I don't know why we skipped the even numbers, guys, except then go back to them for 12. I just don't have an answer that's good for you there, but we do. So this is the ladder. So whatever grade we would hire you on at, you go to the next highlighted one a year from being hired. So if we hired you as a 7, and you then start a year later when you hit your anniversary, you'd go automatically to a 9, then to an 11 a year after that, the 12 after that. After that, there are actually still the 13s, 14s, even 15s available. However, those are things you have to compete for. You have to apply for, interview for, and be selected above the others, right? I would say there's quite a few of those around at the moment, but you do have to compete for them. Within your grade, you can see there's 10 steps. So those 10 steps, you could be hired, say we hire you as a grade 7, but you do have some accounting experience, and I'll explain how to get the different grades in a second. So maybe we hire you as a grade 7, step 7. The steps, if you like stop at the 12 and you don't apply for things, then you would go from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Those are 1 year apart. Then the steps to 5, 6, 7 are 2 years in between steps, and the steps 8, 9, 10 are 3 years in between steps. If you go up a grade when you're already at a step, so let's say you're the grade 7, step 7, when you go up to the 9 of the year, you usually go back 2 steps. So you can see that that's still a pretty good raise, but it's not quite the raise if you kept your steps. So that seems a little confusing. It's a little bit above it. But anyway, that's kind of a rough thing. So the nice thing is you're kind of guaranteed some raises, right? You don't have to go score the partners or whatever it is, some of the other firms want you to do, get the clients or whatever. It's an automatic raise every year for at least a little while. So how do we determine which grade you come on? I probably shouldn't have even highlighted 5s because the difference between a 5 and a 7 is just your grades. And WGU gives you guys this awesome opportunity. All the ones that we've hired here in Utah have automatically come on as 7s. So I don't quote me on this, but it seems like that's how we handle it for you guys. So I would assume that you started a 7. If you have a CPA or a master's, you automatically start as a 9. If you have any experience in accounting, and this is where I would also refer you back to that job posting. our HR department doesn't necessarily understand accounting lingo, right? So if there are words and phrases that are applicable to your experience that are in the job description, make sure you're using the exact same words and phrases so that our HR department knows that you have the good experience, right? And so for each year of experience that you might have, because I know a lot of you might have, stumbled your way into a bookkeeping job and then now are adding the degree right now, right, while you're still working. So if you've got years as a bookkeeper and now you're finishing your master's, then there's a good chance we could bring you on as a 12, as long as we can support that with your resume, okay? So it just kind of depends where you're at. So with that, we can start applications when you're within 9 months of graduation. So if you're interested, but you're like, I've got to finish this next semester, that's okay. We're pretty much within 9 months at this point. Send me your resume, I'll get it to the right person. If you're interested in other positions, like I say, I have some contacts. I can email them. If you are on USA Jobs and they say direct hiring authority, that's when you should send it to me and I'll try and send it to the right person. Otherwise, you're going to have to apply through the USA Jobs anyway. So definitely if you find one that you're like, this fits me better. And we do have a lot of jobs because you guys, most of that money Congress gave us, it's like, I think we still have $60 billion of, besides our normal budget, is mostly for updating everything. The IRS, believe it or not, still has systems that operate in DOS. We're working very much on keeping everything secure. We want taxpayer information safe, that sort of thing. So we have onboarded thousands of revenue agents this year. We need all the support to keep those positions running, right? So we are hiring in IT. We're hiring in I forget the major that you guys have, but cybersecurity, I think is what it is. That sort of thing. We're hiring in all of these things. I just don't know as much about them. So again, USA Jobs definitely has them all. You can filter by just IRS. You can also filter by open to the public because IRS has a whole bunch of jobs that are internal only. So make sure you click that button to see all of the options that we have that are out there right now. So, we do have recruiting events. This is basically the best anyway. If you look, we do advertise some things on Eventbrite that are direct hiring events. So it's possible you could go to one of those events, get fingerprinted and get everything done, like get a job offer that day. That can speed up the process. So if you're really interested and you're like, I qualified yesterday, maybe look on Eventbrite to see if we have an event in your area. We're starting to do a lot of virtual ones. So even if it's not in your area, we might be able to help you out soon with that. But like I say, sending it to me will also get it going pretty fast. So, and this is, I mean, really the reality is we are hiring in every state, in every metropolitan area. Some of the smaller locations. So in Utah, we have Ogden and Salt Lake that have IRS offices, and we're hiring in both of them. If you go to Idaho, our neighbor to the north, we have offices in Boise and Idaho Falls, and we're only hiring in Boise right now. So every state at least has a city we're hiring in. We're working on adding to that. So the yellow ones are supposed to mean where maybe there's fewer opportunities there, but I feel like we're hiring quite a bit in Colorado. I don't know why that one's highlighted, or Texas. Texas has 1 million uh, offices open. So take a look. Like I say, that's one of the best things for the job description that I posted is it will show you all the locations because there's probably one close by. New Mexico, I feel like we're hiring in New Mexico. I'm gonna have to look that one up, Veronica. I don't know. um, because I feel like we're hiring everywhere. Okay, so I think that really takes us, like I say, I'm gonna leave this here. This is my, you can send general questions. irs.usajobs.gov will take you to all the IRS jobs open to the public. sbsc.recruitment@irs.gov. You can send questions and resumes there, and especially if you are not accounting specific, that might be the better place to go, quite frankly. But holly.l.reed@irs.gov, that's my email address, and like I say, I can kind of speed up the process quite a bit. So with that, what questions have I missed? Either Amy or Kristen, or what other questions do you guys have? Amy, you're on mute, sorry.
I just threw the link, just so y'all know, I just threw the link to the to the revenue agent job posting in the chat. So if you wanted to take a look at it and see the exact locations, you are able to do that.
And New Mexico is there. Great. Okay.
I was just going to throw out that somebody was asking about the interview process and the onboarding process. And we kind of want to let you know this is not private industry. So getting through the hiring process is quite lengthy. From the time that we interview you until you onboard can take anywhere from 2 to 4 months. And that's from the time that you get an interview. So there's background checks and tax audits and fingerprinting and a bunch of other things that has to happen in order for you to come on board. So for the person that had commented that they had had an interview and hadn't heard anything, that's not completely unheard of. Hopefully Holly and I can do better in keeping in touch with people that we are working with. We're trying to overcome that barrier, but it is not unheard of to be in this. To be frank, I hired on in 2021. I put in my application in January. I did not onboard until September, and that is not an unusual timeline. So 9 months out from graduation, apply.
I certainly agree with everything Amy said, and I would absolutely agree if you haven't heard anything, get in touch with whoever interviewed you, follow up. They should be able to tell you something. What we're learning is that probably they've got a list of candidates that they have not stayed in touch with, and they're probably overwhelmed. Not that I'm excusing them, but definitely follow up. They want you. They probably do. So follow up, and they'll probably be able to tell you at some point. The big holdup that Amy was mentioning right now is even after I get your resume to the hiring manager, they do the interview, is then we basically are waiting for HR to get to it. And while we're waiting for them to start it, there's very little we can do to speed up the process. But as soon as they get to it, then we can do stuff. So be patient. But like I say, if you're planning to graduate and you're interested, I would go for it. Even if you have no accounting experience, the great thing about this job is you don't have to have any accounting experience. All the accounting experience does is start you higher up in that ladder. But we don't care. I personally started straight out of school with no accounting experience. We give you the training that we want you to have. So it's really great. Let's see.
There was a question about overtime and also about travel pay. We do not do overtime. If you need to work more than 40 hours, we typically do something called a credit hour, which is basically you take time off at a later time and you can earn up to 24 of those and bank them and use them as days off. When you're traveling, you do receive a per diem and they do pay for the hotels and transportation and all of the things that require with travel. And then you get, depending on where you're traveling to, it will determine how much you'll get towards food and incidentals. But all of that is paid out, and you would have a government credit card to pay for things like the hotel and the airfare and all of those things. Let's see, you do not have to have any job experience to be a revenue agent. If you have the educational credits, we will train you. I came into the IRS without a tax background. The training program is very extensive. It's been very easy to, there's a ton of resources to tap into as far as specialists and different tips and resources for different issues. So there's a lot of training available.
I'm going to put out there, you do not, if I get your resume and we send it on and they select you, there's no reason why you have to apply. That being said, I'm sending these resumes to my contacts around the country and I can't always guarantee that they're getting them. So I would say if you really want the job, play it safe and apply to both. It's never going to hurt it, right? But definitely we're trying to help with it. So.
Somebody's asking about resume match software. They are definitely using some kind of software to filter through resumes. One of the things that, again, I came out of private industry and coming into the federal government, do not limit yourself to one page on your resume. Put all of your job experience and put it on repetitively. They are going to look at each individual job, and you want the number of hours that you work per week on your resume. So the dates by month, the number of hours per week that you're working, and details of the duties that you had. So it's a little bit different than private industry when you're trying to go short and sweet. They like long.
And we actually have a recording of a session about writing your resume for federal opportunities. So I'll include that link in my email with this recording link. I'll include that link as well in that email so you can watch that and get some good tips from other federal recruiters on what to put on your federal resume.
For the master's later on question, we can try. The short of it is, if we hire you on, a master's really only gets you one step up the ladder from just having a bachelor's and no experience. So if you get your master's within the first year, by the time we push it through again, you might have already hit the year. So like we definitely could try, but sometimes just HR slowing it down might get you about the same bump that you would have gotten already. So we definitely try though. Oh, and sorry, one more thing. I told you guys about student loans. Right now, we also have hiring incentives. So in addition to the pay scales, if you are hired for either a grade 5, 7, 9, 11, or 12, there is a $15,000 hiring bonus. It is paid in 3 payments over the first 3 years. There are a few tiny restrictions, like if you're internal or federal, probably you wouldn't qualify. Other than that, you would qualify to get the hiring bonus on top of everything. And also, I want to just put it out there that our hiring process and our HR department, I love them. I'm really not trying to bash them, you guys. They're just overworked right now. You get a tentative job offer first. So once you've had the interview, we put you through the system, you get that tentative job offer from USA Staffing. I just want you guys to remember that it's a tentative offer. So like, if you're like, this is not okay, you need to at least match my pay, like talk to your HR person. They're the ones that were copied on the email of your offer with you. It is a tentative offer. It can be negotiated a little bit. So I don't know. Let me double check. I don't know which one Kristen posted for sure, but I think the one I posted is 5 through 12, but I'm checking. Yeah, so the one higher up in the chat that I posted is 5 through 12, but we do have 13s available. So the one Kristen posted, if you have like a lot of accounting experience, by all means apply with that one. Or like I say, we can evaluate you for either one, but if you send me your resume. So definitely, if you're interested and you're graduating in June, we're coming up on that 9 months pretty fast anyway. By the time I get your resume to wherever, we're probably within that 9 months. If life happens and you don't quite graduate, then maybe they can hold it for a little bit longer. So I'd say it's worth going through anyway, because at least you make contacts in your area. If you want to, like if I forward it, you have an interview, maybe you say, can you wait a month to put me in? Because then it gives you like another extra month of build-in if you need it. The graduate and pathways programs. Okay, so I know, I think Sean asked me about this too. So I know that the federal government uses this pathways term. In general, what we've used it for is we can, and I don't remember if we have this program available. I heard that it was coming, so if it's posted recently, and I don't know about it. So sometimes what we can do under pathways is hire you before you have finished your degree, and you have to finish the degree within the 9 months of starting. And that one I know is not direct hire authority, it is only on our website. So you have to apply for that one through usajobs.gov. But it means we could like bring you on now. It is like a full-time job. With WGU, that you could probably still very feasibly finish your degree while working full-time, right? So it's a great avenue that we have to kind of jumpstart it, get you going on now, and then still finish your degree. So that is something we do sometimes have internships. I don't know of any open right now, but again, those are not direct hire authority. They would all be on usajobs.gov if we have them. Remote work, sorry, Amy, do you want to touch on that?
Yes, I was going to say, I should have mentioned this. So part of the reason that we have so much flexibility is that we do offer remote work. The caveat to that is you have to make it through your first 12 months and you cannot actively be in a training status, either classroom or in your nesting, your OJI training period. We're investing a lot of time and resources into you, and so we kind of expect you to show up for the training. The first 12 months is your probationary period, and we typically are not working from home. Once you hit that 12-month mark, you can be put on a frequent telework agreement, and that requires you to come into the office 2 times per pay period, which is the equivalent of once per week. Field time does count as office time, so I can testify to my own experience. There were definitely weeks and weeks and weeks that I had not stepped foot in the office because I was out in the field working with taxpayers and I didn't need to come into the office and I was working from home. So tons of flexibility. There are also alternate work schedules available. So for the first 12 months, you will be working 8 to 4:30 typically. Sometimes we flex that if training classes are starting at 8 sharp, then we may have you come in at 7:30 just to kind of get settled for the day and be ready to start your class. Once you get through that 12-month mark and through your training, you're also eligible for the alternate work schedules. So we have things like a 5-4-9, which means you work 9 hours a day, 5 days one week and 4 days the next week. So every other week you get a day off. We have gliding schedules, which means you basically start and end your day when you want to, and get all your time in, and then you have to be in during core hours, which I think are 9 to 2:30 or 9:30 to 2:30, something like that. You can flex your hours, and as long as you're here during core business hours, you can kind of pick the schedule that you're working. What are some of the other telework agreements that I'm forgetting, Holly?
We actually have a really cool, it's called MaxiFlex, where basically you can set your schedule. So it's like somebody in this office does 2 12-hour days, and then like for the remaining, they might only do like 3 one day and 4 the others. Like they work it out. So you still get your 40 hours per week, but you might do it in weird ways. Again, all of that's available after training. So it's really great. And I was going to just add, we talked about how I love going in the field. That field time does count as work time, or I mean as office time, which is great. And the field time's honestly my favorite. I can't tell you guys how fun it is for me when I get in the car. And first of all, I get to listen to a podcast while working and driving 2 hours to the farm that I have to. I'm in Utah, right? So I have we sometimes have to go a distance to our audits, but I get to listen to a podcast, get out there, tour the business. I love being in the thick of it. I love going through the businesses. It's my favorite part. So I love being in the field with the taxpayers. It's just so fun. So highly recommend that part. I was going to say, it sometimes comes up, you do not actually have to have a car for this job. We actually do reimburse for Ubers to audits as well. Realistically, I would say in Utah, that's only going to get you so far because I don't know if an Uber is going to take you all the way to, some of your audits. Whereas in New York City, probably like you're never going to take a car most of the time anyway, right? And an Ubers would be great. So it kind of probably depends on where you're at, but some of them you're really going to want a car. Some of them maybe you don't need one.
But you are reimbursed mileage. So
yep, either way you're reimbursed for it. And like I say, so that's what I was going to hit on too. Sorry, Amy mentioned all the like overnight travel that's in the first year. After that, I would say it's really kind of what you want. And if you want a lot of travel, there are some the tax exempt government agencies have some positions that are like way more travel than others, right? So does large case have some. In SBSC, sometimes we can pick and choose a little bit. So if you tell your manager, I like travel, they might give you a bit more of the cases that come into the group that require travel. And if you hate travel because you're like me and you have 4 kids at home, maybe you get more of the cases that are much more local. You can usually communicate that with your manager. So you are definitely traveling locally a lot, but I always go home at night, right? And for the record, the like easy way of explaining travel time is whatever your regular commute should always be. Time should always be your regular commute time. So my regular commute, I live really close to the office, is 10 minutes. So anything above 10 minutes is work time. Anything else? Kristen, have I missed anything else? I have not gone up, sorry, the chat.
I think you've covered basically everything. Got another question about those IT jobs. Do you still want those people to contact you, or is it probably better to go to USA Jobs? I don't know.
For sure, if the posting does not say direct hire authority, apply on USA Jobs, right? There's really nothing I can do, unfortunately. It has to go through there. If it says that there is direct hiring authority, sometimes they abbreviate it DHA on the post, then by all means send it to me. I do have some contacts. The other one would be on this screen, the sbse.recruitment.irs.gov. That's one of my contacts is right there. They then send it on to other departments. So I have limited resources, but I have a few. So again, if you're interested in something, the best bet is to apply directly on USA Jobs if it's IT or cybersecurity or something like that. But if it says direct hire authority, go ahead and send it to me, and I'll try to get it faster to someone.
So we do work solo frequently, but for the first year while you're in your nesting period, you're going to have someone with you the entire time. Every single interview, every single field visit, you will have a shepherd going with you, whether it's your manager or your trainer, your OJI. Um, and then if you are ever uncomfortable and feel like you need somebody to go with you, you can always ask somebody to go with you. And whether that's like maybe it's a very complicated tax issue and you want somebody to kind of back you up, you can ask for that assistance. But typically you are working by yourself.
I've gotten a few questions lately from candidates about feeling safe on the job. So another reason you might take somebody with you is if for whatever reason you felt unsafe. I've been here 18 years, and in 18 years, I think I've had 2 or 3 real threats made to me, right? People, I mean, this is a bit of a fun job, right? In those situations, we always take threats very seriously, very credibly. We refer them over to Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, which is basically a police force that investigates those things. They do investigate them. They look at how how credible the threat is, and then they advise you. We also have an indicator on our system, a potentially dangerous taxpayer, that you get told these things, or one of the first things we do when we get a case is pull like a credit, a criminal history, right? Any of these things worry you at all, we can send somebody with you, period, or we can send you somebody with you that's armed, right? Or if in one case I had a taxpayer who really was a little bit certifiably crazy, guys, and the Treasury Inspector General actually recommended that I not meet with them outside of the office, and any meetings in the office would be with them, and they're armed, obviously. So anyway, like I say, very small things. I've never actually felt threatened. Like I say, the threats have mostly actually been on the phone. I've been threatened when I was trying to schedule an appointment, and I reported it. So
And I've had people scream at me. That is not unheard of, but it's very rare. Like I want to emphasize to you guys, it does happen, but it is not the typical interaction that you have. And in fact, very, very, very frequently, I'm told, you guys are a lot nicer than we thought you would be. So
so true. So true.
almost all of them, they're like, you're not as horrible as we thought. So yeah, usually they're very cordial, professional interactions, 95% of the time, I would say.
For sure, what I've seen our HR department do is count each class for 3 credit hours. So that's what I would expect them to do. And like I say, also my experience has been that they count them as A's basically. So that's good news in starting at a higher grade.
Absolutely. And I did put a link in the chat. So if you are in a different program that doesn't have the required accounting hours, our continuing grad team can help you figure out if there is a program that would be a good fit to help you get those hours. So feel free to reach out to them. Your program mentor may also know somebody or know of what other students have done if they needed to get additional accounting hours. So I would take advantage of those resources that you have available to you as a student or an alum here at WGU. I think that is all of the questions that we got. I really appreciate y'all taking the time out of your day. Thank you, Holly and Amy, so much for sharing about these wonderful opportunities with the IRS. And I know that everybody here has learned a lot. I always learn something new when I'm in one of these sessions. So absolutely, really, really appreciate y'all. And your support for our WGU students and alums. I will be sending out a copy of this recording tomorrow, along with all of the links that we've discussed in the chat. So if you have additional questions, you can always reply back to that email. Send Holly if an email if you've got questions about the job as well. Her email's here on the screen. But thank you everybody so much for your time and attention today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and a great week.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thanks, everyone.